I still wish they'd go back and have it count.
Yeah, Kennebunk.
Count's still there.
Is he? Does he count as good as he
Yeah,
used
we went to
to?
Freeport.
1, 2, 3.
I get
You know, isn't that derogatory to
side of
Dracula?
It very well could be. But I don't think anybody's gonna
it was
complain.
great. We golfed a couple times. Yeah, the weather was real. It was a little drizzly one day.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yes. And everybody's favorite little red guy,
Heather and I were there.
Elmo. I hate Elmo.
Yeah, what, and see, they got rid of Oscar the Grouch. He's low key now.
Oh, good
Oscar's
idea.
still there.
But he's not featured. They went to Elmo because
Well,
Elmo's a
right.
worse off creature.
No, Oscar's not
Cookie
featured by
Monster.
Oh,
anyone.
it's great. We
I love Cookie Monster and Grover.
lobster,
Rover was great too.
crab, and
Grover still has a little segment every now and again.
blueberry pie, and
I haven't seen it.
Cookie Monster.
Gonzo.
Is Gonzo
Indian
still
pudding.
on?
You ever had Indian
Gonzo's
pudding?
Or is he just a movie
Very-
star?
He was just Gonzo's a Muppet baby. He's not a
He's a
Sesame
Muppet.
Street.
Yeah, he was Muppet Show.
Honey, and
Yeah. Same family that created them
that-
all.
it was pretty
I miss
good.
his
It's all created by the
Muppet shows,
Hensons.
too.
And it looks like,
But
you know, something you'd have in a diaper.
it's good stuff. Huh?
It's pretty good.
I like cornmeal.
It is amazing though.
Sorry,
What
No, you're fine,
shows
you're fine.
Lasted the
slacking.
test of
I'm
time.
slacking.
I move we accept the agenda as presented.
All
Oh,
right.
if you open the meeting yet?
Yeah, I'm fixing to.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
Bill. I missed something there.
We've
Did
moved
we-
right along, haven't we? We're already down to 3.
Well, I just saw it at 7:01. I didn't.
Yeah, it is. We're
Our
gonna call
computer
this
says
meeting to order.
6:50.
Yeah, mine says
with
6:59.
7,
Oh,
Huh?
okay.
yeah. Call this meeting to order with 7 members present.
7.
We have the agenda presented to us.
Now, Bill.
I was waiting.
And we have a consent agenda that was presented to us prior to coming to this meeting. Do I have a motion for those two?
I would move that we approve the agenda for this meeting and the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, moved by Bill, seconded by David. All in favor, raise your right hand. I guess we could discuss it. Sorry, I forgot about that little spot. Comments from the public, Teresa? No. Okay. 5.01, the iPad 1 initiative. Ms.
Bundle
Miller?
Initiative.
Okay. I'm going to need both access to an iPad and, which I brought, and to a computer, so. Let me see if I can. No, is that Apple TV, am I on the right? What Apple TV? Yeah. Oh, yeah, can you change the source?
This is pretty cool stuff.
Update later. Oh, no. And I can't control it.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I'm gonna log in as a student so you can see what the kids see. Let me just give you an overview of the program. Probably, July 31st would be my guess. No, it was July 31st I called because I was on my way home from the hospital. I know, baby. Ryan, I don't, do I need a microphone?
Yeah, because we're recording this.
We're
so
recording
people
this.
are interested in hearing.
People will be watching this for
Sorry.
years to
My
come.
apologies.
Yes.
Perpetuity.
In perpetuity.
Then they
Anyway,
can't
end of
sleep.
July, Dr. Cobbs called and said that the iPad one-to-one initiative had been approved by the powers that be, and wondered if I was still interested in doing it. And so I said, of course, you know, I'm always up for a new challenge. And little did I know what we were getting into. When we met during the summer, it was presented to us that we would have a curriculum to operate with. They showed us the operating system and some of its capabilities. Lo and behold, there is no curriculum available. So Keith and I have been converting our current curriculum to the iPad platform. So what you're going to see is my Algebra 2 curriculum that's been converted to electronic format. So the kids, when they log in, they get this little menu. And they get a little calendar. Now, we're a little behind schedule, so we've got to go back a little ways. So we'll pick beginning of September to see what's going on. And they have this list of assignments. And if they had other courses, they could go into they could see all of their coursework for all of their classes in one view. But I am only assigned to the Algebra 2 class. And you'll see the due date over in the left-hand column, and then the type of assignment it is, whether it's a daily assignment. There are some quizzes in here as well. And then they have different options. The little puzzle piece here is where they go to enter their homework assignments. The little folder with the globe on it is online resources that I've put together. So you can see there's the Teach Me How to Factor is a YouTube wrap. This
have
one
time to see
is,
that?
this one's gonna be a link to a YouTube video that I have created. Oh, okay.
It's not.
It's fine. I just have to authenticate. Have to remember my password. The kids have to authenticate daily. If they don't, then their Lumen site doesn't work and they can't get on the internet, and it's all kinds of bad. So I'm always on them to authenticate, and then I didn't. Log in. Okay, let's try that again. It doesn't like it. There we go. We're in. Okay, this is a bad choice to show. This was before I figured out how to do video, and I was videotaping everything sideways, so all the kids had to turn their stuff sideways. Let's go to this one, because it's right side up.
Yeah, get us a good video.
Yeah.
Are there any kittens in this?
No kittens.
Okay.
So directly from the Lumen site, they launch into the video. And I'm not sure you have any, there you go.
Completing the square has several steps, as you can see. The first step is going to be to get all the variable terms on one side and a constant terms on the other. So in our
Okay, so they'll go through and watch that video. This is the second part of a video. They had previously taken all of those notes, so it wasn't like I just put that whole thing of notes up there. Then they go back to their site, and they can enter their answers to the questions using that little puzzle piece. So they type in an answer. This equation keyboard is something that Lumen developed at our request. Oh, this one doesn't. Why isn't the equation? There it is. They did not have a method for entering things with variables, and that's something that's pretty necessary in Algebra 2. So it took them a few weeks probably to come up with a solution that was going to work. I'm just typing in a random answer. Okay, so we enter our answer, and then we hit check answer, and it will tell us if our answer is correct or incorrect.
That wasn't right.
Now, we don't know why it's not correct, but at least the student knows that their answer is not correct. So chances are that they will either stop at that point and ask me, wait until they're in class and ask me, or sometimes they'll email me a screenshot and say, why isn't this answer right? The screen refreshes every 10 seconds, so all of their answers are saved. When they get to the end, they can submit their assignment, and it goes directly into my gradebook. And it will tell how many points they got. And I'll show you in a second how I can look at that. They can also go into this, well, if I had any submitted. Here we go. They can go into this little red, yellow, and blue barred activity, and they can actually look at their previous submissions and see what their answers were and whether they were correct or incorrect. You can change the settings. I can request that the students only be allowed to submit their answers one time. I can allow them to be self-checking. I can turn off the self-checking. I can keep the submission open until I close it. I can set the date that it closes. What I currently have them set to is to allow them to check their answers and to keep the highest submittal. So they can submit several times, and if they didn't like their score the first time, they just take it over and they can raise their grade. Do you have any questions about the student side of things?
So So did I hear you correctly when you first started that you have developed the software, or you have developed the curriculum
The
for it?
curriculum. The
We-
curriculum is, follows the Algebra 2 curriculum that we've put, that reflects the Common Core state standards. Last year, Beth Black and I went ahead and jumped in and decided to follow a Common Core for Algebra 2. So we revamped everything and resequenced and restructured. And so we're using that same curriculum with the iPad class.
Okay, so when you first started that in July, did you think that you had curriculum?
Yeah.
They told you you had
Yes.
curriculum?
Uh-huh. And they're still working, they are working with KU. My understanding is that they're going to have some sort of activities where when the students have an incorrect answer, it will come back and tell them, we think this is why you missed the question that you missed, which would be really good. For right now, though, we have what we create.
How long does it take you to create a lesson?
Well, since they're already created, all I'm really doing is reformatting it so that it fits. So what I've got to do, and I can show you that from the instructor site, but I'll need a laptop to do that. You go in and you type the instructions, you type the questions. Filming the videos is taking, around in probably 30 minutes per lesson. And then typing them in probably takes another 30 minutes. So we're looking at about an hour per lesson of additional time.
Okay.
But I'm not very good at it yet, so it should get easier, right?
And you're building the tables and the answers and all that was showed up there?
Yes.
And are you hoping to market this later on at some point?
Well, since I am a USD 290 employee and I'm creating this on USD 290 equipment, it wouldn't be mine to sell anyway.
Yeah.
That leads into the next question. Are we copywriting our work product?
Exactly. I was going to ask.
Because this is our work product.
Yeah.
Or are we
With-
feeding
And
this
it's with
directly back
Common
to
Core
Lumen?
standards.
Or
Which
is
is
this going
something-
right on into Woodham's?
Lumen.
I don't know. I mean, I was under the impression, Ryan, that they had the curriculum that Christy was using or gonna use and wanted to do the lessons herself, or what's the?
Lumen never came up with a curriculum. They couldn't do it. Well, they came up with something that was like Math Blaster that was not very good. It didn't allow us to incorporate the things that we wanted to incorporate in a lesson. So Christy and Keith both had a lot of different ideas than what Lumen was able to produce with just material, just handing us materials. So Lumen came in and spent, I don't know, the better part of probably 2 weeks in classrooms, talking to kids, talking to teachers about what would make this more accessible to them. One of the things was the keyboard that they came up with. And, I mean, as much as we've told them what we wanted to do, that was not developed by us. Lumen's programmers did the work for that. So this is not, it's not a USD 290 product. Lumen developed the program that we use.
Right.
We-
Well, you might not be understanding my question. They've got the iPhone. They are the iPhone app for this. You're providing the content, just like applications do. Your app is the Christy Miller math program. So is that app only to us, or is Lumen's giving this to other?
Lumen does not have the opportunity to give it to others at this point. It's all USD 290 property at this point. It's just housed on Lumen's site.
And so it's a hosted environment? And there's no cost of that at
We have
all?
not paid a dime.
They've done a lot of work for me.
They've done
I can
a
tell
lot of
you
work
that.
For both groups.
Yeah.
And what about security and in the hosted environment protection of student information?
They don't have any student information. Just-
They got
just-
grades. Are the grades on their
Grades
website?
are not on their website. The grades are only to these assignments, and they're protected just like any other grades are protected through our school management systems, but they don't download directly into our gradebook.
No, they don't.
They download into Christie's gradebook, who then transforms them to our gradebook.
I take the grades from the Lumen site onto paper, from paper to GoEduStar.
And how do the kids like it?
Now that they're used to the way that it works, I mean, it's had its quirks and fits and starts along the way, but they're really starting to appreciate the check answer features, the electronic connection to me work because they'll email me at any point over the weekend and ask me a question or send me a screenshot. I'm stuck on this problem. And it really has allowed them to make less stilted progress. I can show you, this is what a typical day in my classroom looks like. Show. Okay. So you can see, okay, you can't see. Why can't you see? There you go. You can see that there's a group of girls sitting at that front table. They're all working on the same thing. This kid has a question. These two guys at the front, they'll come up in a second. There's two guys at the front. One of them didn't want to be in the picture. They were working together on something, and then the other girl there, she's working on something different. She is taking notes on the couch. She's watching one of the videos, probably. There's a view from the doorway. You can see this group of boys in the back. They're taking a quiz right now. So at any given moment, I'll have kids working on 5 different things. But they group together and they'll work in little pods. So they have each other's support, plus my support as well. Since they're doing their instruction off campus, then the time that they spend with me is really more of a coaching situation. I'm not addressing the entire class. I'm addressing a group of 3 kids or 2 kids or 1 kid.
So the homework assignment is to watch the video.
Their homework is to watch the videos. They also create a notes and summaries. So they owe me notes, summaries, and questions. So you'll see on I have my little, this is how we keep track of stuff. I have a poster board that has NSQ, notes, summaries, and questions for every topic. And then their assignment is to start it. That way, if they have questions, they can add those onto their questions document. So certainly they're doing problems outside of class. They're not going to be able to complete all of their homework problems during class. But it has significantly improved our quality of time together.
Explain, a while ago you said something about later on they might be able to tell the kids why they missed the problem and et cetera. But then you said they weren't part of the grading system, so how is that going to work?
It would be a computer, from what I understand, it would be like say you answered 7 on this question and the answer should have been 12. Well, based on your answer of 7, the program can predict, from what I understand, would be able to predict what your possible error was and just say, based on your answer, I think maybe you added it wrong.
Multiplied it or
Yeah,
divided wrong.
right.
Yeah.
But that's something that's coming through KU that Lumen is working with on that. So I don't really
The other
know.
part of this, we talked about the amount of time that it takes to create the lessons and so on and so forth. But the possibilities and the amount of time that it could save
Mhm.
are huge. I mean, we don't have to grade anymore. If we used Lumen Touch as a management software system, it would download or upload, however, transfer those grades directly into a gradebook. So there would be no second-party transfer of grades that there is now. That if we house this together, everything would just transfer smoothly into the gradebook and would be housed right there. So we would cut the time of grading as well as inputting grades. So that the actual time that we spend on lessons would be more geared towards promoting the instruction instead of grading and putting in just the daily work type of a thing.
So as a company, Lumen Touch has what products?
They have a school management system. They also
Which
have-
means what components? The grades, the
well,
scheduling,
it means a lot of
the-
things. They have
that's my
a
question.
component that is a tracking software, which we're currently using, or Plasco Tracks. We bought a device so that we can track the number of kids that come into any of our events. Within Lumen, they have their own program that's housed into their management system. So for instance, if we wanted to track who gets on or off of the bus, we just simply have a barcode with a scanner, the kid walks in, and so we didn't have to have elementary school kids walking around with student IDs to remember. It's easier for high school kids to do that. But you could have a page, the bus driver could have a page of every kid that is supposed to be on that bus, picture ID and a barcode. As the kid gets on, they just scan the barcode, bleep, bleep, bleep. All these kids are on the bus. When they get off, they stop at the house, they scan the barcode. So if we ever have any issues about who's on or off the bus, we can say, we picked this kid up at this point in time and we dropped him off at this place at this exact time.
Well, and you could do that in each classroom, I take it, so they had.
We can do that in each classroom. And Lumen has also brought that up, that we can have so many ways of doing attendance A lot of them are maybe not realistic for our district at this point, but, I mean, the opportunities are out there. The one-to-one initiative that they're talking about can certainly be done through Lumen. The school management system is about attendance, grades. They have a phone tracking system, much like we're using Easy School Messenger for now. They have a scheduling software that would have to work better than GoEduStar, I have to think. I can't remember, they had this big circle thing that they showed us back towards the end of the year. And I remember that there were several things that we have farmed out to different companies. I know that Mr. Graff and I had sat there and said, we're doing this with somebody else, we're doing this with somebody else, we're doing this with somebody else. It would be nice to have all of that housed in one system. But
And-
that, a management system is not, I mean, that's not what Christie or I either one are here for. I mean, the one-to-one system has been a blessing and a detriment. Both what we were promised initially and what we got was not the same, but I think what we've done
Is better.
is better and is where we have thought we were going to go in the end anyways. So we really just skipped a step. We're providing a completely different platform of instruction for kids. It's completely changed what that classroom looks like, and it's provided a different excitement about kids coming to that classroom. Pretty excited about the iPads and how they learn and so on and so forth, in both classes, in both Mrs. Miller's class and Mr. Light's class. I mean, the other opportunities are, if this were a system that we would go to and change the face of instruction at Ottawa High School, think about how much money we save on textbooks. Think about how much money we save on doing the material adoptions and things that we've done in the past. I think last year the English language arts curriculum was somewhere around $700,000 for the district. I mean, we don't, if we go with something like this and if it works, we don't have to provide math textbooks anymore. Everything that they need is right there accessible to them. And the cost that we can save as a district is pretty tremendous.
Well, I question that statement in that everything they need is presented right there. It is, but that precludes the point that everything that we're teaching them is coming out of our teachers' heads.
Right.
We still have to provide some input resource. So the question would be, where is that coming from? Are you working off of a textbook when you put this stuff in?
The Common Core State Standards.
So let's go back to the first question, lumens.
What was the,
Have-
what was the
have-
first
ha-
question?
Is this the first site they've done this pilot iPad project?
Yes.
So we
The way
all,
that we currently have.
It's not really an iPad project, it's web-based.
it's
so you can
well-based,
use
but it's on
kind of-
any device.
yeah.
You could
But
use,
we
you
are
could use
the
a
first
laptop.
site for this.
You could use a laptop?
Because I was thinking that they already had the software to begin with.
I was too.
That
They
we-
have
that
the
we would-
software to do a one-to-one initiative. The software was not what we wanted it to be. So we
Okay.
changed it.
The software's not loaded with curriculum.
Correct.
They have the software, they did the programming, it's web-based, it can be used on any device. Christie's provided the curriculum.
Okay. So as they've offered this for free, what's the long range here? Because there's nothing free in this world and everything costs. So when we talk about adoption of programs, we've had certain costs when we went with certain programs, but then we have some exponential costs that they get you in phase 2 and 3. I thought we were just looking at this for the iPad, and I thought we wouldn't be the first site, which we are the first site, just like we were with GoEduStar. What?
Not like we were with GoEduStar. This is completely different than GoEduStar.
Okay,
GoEduStar is a school management system. This is a.
but we're still the beta site. We're still the beta site, and as a board, I wasn't thinking she was gonna have to do an hour
Right.
plan time per lesson. And so I just wanna know more about lumens in the process before we jump to all the blue sky, because I haven't heard we've got a scheduling program problem. We haven't heard through technology anything on this. I just want a little bit more information, because to me, I'm hearing hour a class. You've already got it, you're putting it online, but there is a learning curve and a cost. And are they sharing this information with other sites for other sales? Are they gonna
Are we
copy it
protected?
and move it on?
They certainly have the ability to do that, but would not do it without teacher permission, because I've asked them about, they do have other schools who are using Lumen. I don't know the extent to which they are using it. Based on the abilities of the software when I inherited it, I would say that we are probably the first school to use it the way that I'm using it, the way that Keith and I are using it, because it had the ability to accept text-only responses, no variables, no exponents, no radicals, no fractions, none of that.
Because you asked them because you said they had to reprogram
Right.
that and put that.
So
into
you
your-
could, like, screen capture images, so I could put a question that had a fraction. I could put a multiple choice question that had options that were fractions or exponents and such, and kids could answer that way. That was the extent of it. And I didn't feel like that was beneficial to our students' education. So I said, I can't use it this way. If we can do this, then I can use it, you know. So they developed it
So their engineers have been helpful.
extremely.
And
Bottom line, what are the benefits and what are the strengths and weaknesses of this system in your classroom?
I would say the weaknesses are probably just the limitations that the programmers can't think of every possible option. Some of the things that we battle, like, for example, with factoring, x plus 2 times x plus 3 should be recognized as the same thing as x plus 3 times x plus 2 because of the commutative property, and it doesn't currently. It's written to recognize it the way that you enter it, and that's all. They are currently working on that. I mean, every time I make them aware of an issue, they start to work on a solution to it. Right now, they're working on a touch-sensitive graphing system because that's my next unit, is to be graphing. And so they're in development on that. He thought I would have access to it. He's going to get me some more information tomorrow, maybe within the next week, that I would have that available. But they definitely make game time changes as I come across a need.
But in your classroom, what are the strengths?
The strengths are that the kids are getting more one-on-one time with me, with the teacher. I mean, that sounds really conceited, I don't mean it that way. But they're getting more, they get more teacher time than they would otherwise. I'm able to answer their questions. They get stuck on something, they can ask me. They're not sitting for 20 minutes as a group just hearing. They can hear when they watch the videos. They hear and they write and they process and they develop their own summaries. So they're thinking through it and putting it in their own words and then writing questions. And then they bring that to me and we can have a discussion. I can look through their notes and say, okay, this looks good. You missed something here. I can read through their summaries, and by reading their summaries, I can tell if they really understood it or if they're still kind of sketchy on it. They come up with really great questions for me. Not everyone. Some of the kids are still developing those skills, but it just takes things to a higher level.
Good.
So you have it in 2 math classes right now?
I have one, and Keith Lane has one. He's got a geometry class, and I have Algebra 2. He couldn't be here this evening. He's had a family emergency that's taken him out of the state.
Sorry to hear that.
So what happens if we go one step ahead and we add some classes, but our teachers aren't as expertise as you are on the system? What happens? What if they're not willing to spend an hour per lesson?
Well, honestly, the time that I'm putting in right now is an investment in the future of my curriculum. Andy just asked me a little bit ago, would I be upset if we lost Lumen? To an extent, yes, because, it has been a big time investment, but I'm certainly also not the kind of person who's going to hold on to something, even if I've put in a lot of work, if it's not working. If we used this program, say I went with it another year next year, everything is there. I can just import any of the pieces. That would allow me to focus my time on making changes that I thought I needed to make, improve my curriculum. The videos would be there unless I seriously my videos are 15-minute segments, so I could still rearrange my curriculum without disrupting that. So those are going to be also available. So that time is already invested. So that's half of my time right there. And then not having to retype all of those curriculum pieces. I'd have virtually no prep time other than getting things ready, making sure that that the pieces that I'm using are the best that I can find.
So your plan time can be used for other things other than class preparation for that particular
Other than
class.
making videos and typing in the curriculum, yes. Mm-hmm.
What has other staff said, Ryan?
I have a number of staff that are ready to go. They're ready for the iPads. I asked Andy, I sent a couple weeks ago, we have 10 extra iPads left over from this project. I have 10 teachers that said that they're ready to start working on their curriculum now. So there's a number of teachers in our building that are ready to go with this.
So what is the cost?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is it gonna cost us?
The cost, after we decide to go,
Yeah.
don't know yet. That's why we're piling it.
Okay, if we pilot it, Dean, and we're given all this effort, at what point are we so far in that we're stuck on the price?
I don't think we will be.
What is the projected price? Price
Well,
point per year per kid?
I mean, it'll be our
Price of the
curriculum.
iPad, but I don't know what the price of,
What is the price
There's
of
no,
the product?
there's no hosting service company does it for free forever.
No,
So
they-
what,
No.
what's
Oh, but
the
it's
And-
an app. I mean, typical apps are $5 a piece. And their program is nothing more than a housing unit. So, I mean, it would be no different than any other app that we would download to an iPad, which I don't know that I've seen an app more than $10 a piece on any machine.
it's not really an app that you download to an iPad,
It's a
though. It's just,
software
it's a,
program.
it's a web program.
a
So
web-based
It doesn't
software.
have to be an iPad.
It's a web portal, and
So
so
you're good.
so we're gonna pay a licensing fee
You're gonna
annually to
pay
the portal.
probably per number of kids
Right.
that is using it, and
They don't have a projection now on what their
I haven't heard
targeted per
any
price
prices.
is.
Right.
I'm sure they do. I can find out, but,
I sure would like to know that in the next 30 days, so that before we have them go a full year, and then to say, look at it and go, ouch, we can't afford this, and have them have done a year's worth of work for when we can't afford it.
Well, and we have to take into account, I think, the cost of developing the core curriculum that you're developing. I mean, that's a cost, you know, it's your cost, and you're doing it because you're interested and good at it and all those things, and doing that for students, and I think that's awesome. But that is a cost that has to be factored in, because you're developing something for them. And I do think there needs to be something that precludes them from then taking that and sending that to other places. We had that with our software at the hospital. One of our technicians developed some real awesome reports and some things that the system could do, and he developed it, and they went ahead and gave that to other hospitals. We had nothing in our contract to prevent them from doing that. And so-
I don't know what anybody would benefit taking our curriculum. You can get online and get almost every school's curriculum right off their website. Duke University houses an iBooks program that puts in a number of high school curriculums similar to this but different. This program we're not a beta site for them. They are creating a program for us. I mean, that's the difference. We're not doing this work for Lumen. Lumen is doing the work for us. We created this program to fit and model what Ottawa High School needed. So
Right.
there's not a lot that somebody else would be able to pick up on and say, hey, let's go. And the
But-
work itself is in the program. I don't see a lot of other schools wanting to pick up Christie's videos and say, hey, not that she does a poor job doing her videos, but sequence, alignment, what they're talking about on any given day may be different, may not be beneficial to those kids, it may not be how they teach that program. So, I mean, those are a lot of things. The other thing is simply just doing what she said. She has the curriculum, she's just putting it into a format, which would once again be different than what a lot of other schools would do.
Well, I have no problem with that piece of it. My concern is that we're working, and we're asking her and Keith to do an awful lot of work to pilot a project that, quite frankly, we don't know how much it would cost to implement. Yes, we're doing it for free now, but what if we get to the end of this project and the cost is prohibitive enough that we can't proceed with it? Then we've asked two of our staff to invest a year's worth of work into a project that we think is really cool, but gosh, we can't afford it. I have a problem with that.
well, I still think it's Christie's material, and she'll be able to use whatever she develops.
videos go to YouTube. It has nothing to do with Lumen whatsoever, and all the stuff she's developing. Lumen is just providing an interface, a way of delivering the material to a web browser. They're not providing the curriculum, and, you know, they're not gonna use.
And it doesn't sound like they really ever intended to provide a curriculum. It sounds like they intended to provide a transport vehicle, basically, for implementation.
But they
The
said they did.
software that
But they
delivers
said
the
they did.
curriculum, but
They
the
have a-
teachers
they
type in
have
the
a
tests and
curriculum,
the answers
but
and
not
create
what-
the videos.
we wanted or Christie wanted.
Not good enough.
No company can stay in business doing it for free. So my question is, by us doing it for free, what do they get out of it?
Right.
What do we get in exchange? And then what's our long-term cost?
And is
We got
this,
10 more people, 10 more classes. Dean, what is our cost? I mean, nothing's free in this world, and no company does it for free. What is the long-term cost? And what's the catch?
and is this an overall direction that we want to go based on what our IT plan is? I mean, I would assume so, but, I mean, then we haven't mapped that out. We don't have that sequentially.
It's pretty cool. Let me show you what I can do on my instructor side, real quick. Also, one of my kids pointed out that's in my iPad class.
It'd be easier if you just.
No, we can't.
She said, you know, I would probably not be passing this class if I wasn't in the iPad version because I can check every single answer. And so a kid's not going home. I mean, you probably all have kids who have gone home. Well, you don't, Brian, but they're not old enough. But they've done,
Wait a minute, I've got some that are old enough.
who have come home and done like 20 problems, and they get back to school and they've done every single one of them wrong. Well, no kid is going to do that in this system. If they do the first 5 and none of them are right, they're going to stop, and they're going to email, or they're going to wait until the next day, or they're going to come in before school and ask me a question. She also said, you know, I have trays, you know, where you probably all do, have trays where you put graded papers. Their tray is empty. I haven't used one single piece of paper. I haven't made, I may have made 40 copies for that class for the entire year because they're test papers. They're using, a lot of my kids are doing their own notes on their iPad, so they're completely paperless.
I love the idea of this whole, this use of technology. And Christie, people would be more interested in your curriculum if you'd use press-on nails. I just want to point that out to you.
I'm telling you what, I know, and then I get like cuts and stuff.
I know, it all shows up.
And then I had to sing, I have a song for the quadratic formula. I
Oh,
had to
my-
sing on it. I'm like, so sorry.
I wish I had a copy of that. What
It's on
about,
YouTube.
what about our student information? Is it safe?
There is no student information. All they
Okay.
have is names.
Okay.
Names and then whatever grades are in there.
So-
But those are not their official grades. They have other grades that come from me that are not in the Lumen system.
So our information is protected? Okay, that's fine.
And the other piece of the puzzle that the district is looking at, as I understand it, is that they're looking at Lumen's management system as a piece of the puzzle. The question I have and have had from the outset is this is all great stuff, but there has to be a cost to do it, and it bothers me that we don't have any idea what that cost is.
When
We
they
don't
first-
know
I've never
what the
When
upfront.
they first presented, they did have costs, and it was probably a third of what we're currently paying, but they had a lot of different applications in there. It was much cheaper, but we didn't
This is what it
go
looks
with any
like.
of that other than just trying to pilot this piece and see what we wanted to do with this and anything else. But
This is
I
what the
can't read
interface looks like when you don't need to read it,
behind
when I create an assignment. So you can see why there's a lot of work that has to go on. A lot of it is copy and paste, but you do have to enter in your equations and type them in. And then you tell it what kind of answer. They also added this auto-calculate feature. I can tell it how many points I want my assignment to be, and then it will auto-calculate to make all of those questions worth those values. That's just the interface where I do that. Then you've got all these options, may be completed online, submission closed, all the things that I talked about, they're right there. But the cool part is in the grade book, I apologize that you're going to be seeing people's grades.
We shouldn't do it.
Yeah, if we're gonna see grades, we shouldn't.
Well,
see it.
I just want to.
No, we just need to take that out.
Okay, it's just,
I can't do it with patient information. We can't do it.
I will go on this one that doesn't have, you'll see, maybe you won't see any answers. Okay, this is empty. This is an empty grade book, or an empty assignment. I can go into this view, and it shows me if it was an assignment that had any answers, it would show me the answers to every question for every student in one view. At that point, I can click on this teacher comment. I can leave a comment for the student, like, you made that negative and it should have been positive, or something like that. I could give them some kind of
Coaching.
commentary feedback. I can also assign points for that question. Say it was a 5-point question, but they didn't get it right according to the software. I can look at their work. So I do this on quizzes all the time. I look at their work and figure out their points that they've earned, and I can assign them in there. I can also toggle this and say, this actually is a correct answer. So it allows me to have some other
Control.
override besides the software to assign their points. And then the kids get to, when they go back and view it, they can see those comments.
I don't want you to get the impression that we don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah, don't get that
We
impression
think-
at all, because
I
that's
know,
not what we're.
but
Because, and we
I just
don't
wanted to
appreciate
show
the
you-
hard work that
No,
you're
I just
doing,
wanted to
because
show
we
you my
do.
stuff, and then you guys can do
But
what you need to do,
I
but
think,
I don't need to be, I don't know how much it costs. I've never asked that question. I'm not an expert
yeah,
in that,
nor
so I
should you,
can't
nor
judge
should
that.
you have to, because you're putting enough of your hard work and time into it.
That's all my cool stuff.
You should send them a bill.
Unless you have any other questions. That's
Nope.
all the cool stuff I have to show you.
That was fairly cool.
It was,
Very cool.
don't get me wrong, it is,
Send them a bill.
it is a very powerful tool, and it would be cool to see us make that transition to it. We just need to know the back end piece that we have to deal with.
And if you could
And
get
the
kittens
overarching
involved too, because kitten videos are always the most popular.
There is one video that has my daughter coming downstairs, because it was 6:30 in the morning. I thought it was safe to videotape, and she woke up, "Good morning, Mommy." You hear her in the background. You hear puppies a lot.
That's good.
There you go.
Yeah, it's fairly professional.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Right. And please tell Mr. Lane that I hope his family is doing well, or that we hope his family is doing well. All right, on to 5.02, board reports. We had one presented, proposed legislative committee report. Do you have any comment?
That is, we got one more meeting in November. That was the proposed legislative report that we put together, that they're taking around all these summits. And so he went through it, I'm blanking on his name, who did that? Mark Tallman.
Mark Coleman.
Yeah, he went through all of that at the meeting up at Peak. I was there, Marge was there, Brian was there but had to leave. But then he asked for comments from people from all the different sites, and then we're gonna take all that information in November. With that information, put together our final report to present for vote this year at the district, whatever it is, the annual conference. This year, though, the delegate assembly, instead of being on Saturday, is on Sunday morning, because we're trying to draw attendance for that. So you get to go on Sunday morning instead of Saturday morning, because you're our voting
Okay.
person.
There you go.
But anyhow, it's
Vote early, vote often.
sticking with the Kansas First model. It's very similar. Instead of doing several different things to vote on, we're doing it as one giant package. So instead of different resolutions, or not resolutions, that's the wrong, because resolutions last forever. What we used to do, what do they call it, where it's just for 1 year? No, there's ones that, the resolutions stick with it until it's overturned, that's the Constitution, but then there's ones that you do each year. But instead of doing just like, we're gonna vote on 7 separate ones. we're
Action
putting-
positions.
Yeah, we're putting it all together as one called First in Kansas, Kansas First Education, trying to get Kansas to the top of the nation in education.
And they're actually gonna do that voting on Sunday this year.
Yeah, it's
Instead of
the
Saturday.
delegates, Sundays on
This-
Sunday.
Yeah.
But Marge, like I said, we were at the conference, or the, I don't know what you call it, the summit, but it was really good, I thought. Doesn't sound really good for the future of Kansas funding with the tax cuts. Everyone's real skeptical about that. Didn't
Alright.
50% turnover in the legislature. And
It's gonna
total
be a
loss
lot.
of institutional memory, pretty much. All the leadership positions are gonna change, so no one knows what to expect coming up.
We found out at this meeting, it was chock full, 12 hours of meetings, and it was positive for the most part, I thought. Frankly, it scares me to death about the Common Core standards, and not the standards, but are our teachers ready to teach those standards in the different way that they're going to be asked to?
And what do you mean?
Well, they're going to be a step up from what we teach now, a step in a different direction. And all of our teachers have had their training in the other way, and now they're going to be asked to teach in a different way. The evaluation tool, this board has to come up with one in March, and they talked about KSB is going to have a conference, workshop, whatever, talk about having some of the teachers there to talk about that evaluation tool. We can use KEEP, or we can use something that fits with KEEP or whatever. But we have a lot of work to do, a lot of work, and I think we have to. The Common Core sounds easy. I don't think it scares me to death. Talked a lot about college and career ready, and that was good news about how they're working with colleges and how they're working with kids who went to 2-year school, didn't make it. They go to a 4-year school, and then they can come back and get that 2-year degree when they reach that point. That's something that hasn't been able to be done. And so they're really thinking outside of the box to try to meet the needs of, and I think the most interesting part, sad, was our Kansas or United States, whatever, our middle class is leaving us. Used to be if you went to high school, or even if you didn't, you were middle class and you did quite well. And this one man's father made $90,000 and worked on the train, but all of that's leaving us. And what have we done here in Ottawa? We've dropped our building program. Instead of adding, we're subtracting, and we have a lot of work to do, lots of areas to get, so we're ready for the change.
I thought the most pressing thing that, as a board, what she's talking about is that the No Child Left Behind waiver for Kansas. For us to get the waiver, we have to have a teacher evaluation program in place that has to be approved by the State Board of Education. Is that correct, Dean? It's by the state board?
Well, yeah, I mean, every plan won't go to them, but KSDE.
Well, there's KEEP, which they have not even finished yet. They don't even know, so it looks like it'd be real dicey to go with that. But that's either you have to go with KEEP, or you have to have one approved by the board. McCrell's being used by a lot of schools, looks like, and someone's gonna try to get that approved. What was the other one they used, the other big one?
It was,
Danielson,
no,
Yeah.
Danielson.
it's, but KEEP and McCrell are the two that they thought they could get through, and then, or a Charlotte Danielson model, which we use, a version of that. That's what we developed several years ago, but,
Well, we have to pick one.
right,
And go with
and
it.
have
Because
a,
know that we have to do that to be in compliance with the No Child Left Behind Waiver Act. Of course, the issue with that is our evaluation tool is also a negotiated item with the teachers, so we have to let them know by March, I think.
yeah, Brian's actually forming that committee now. We talked about that through negotiations quite a bit, what we needed to do, and I think everybody understands, I mean, the teachers, everyone, and he'll get them started. And we had Terry Howard served on the KEEP, and Cindy Gehring also did. But the more you hear about, just like you guys heard there, it just far from done, and there's just a lot of questions. McRel is the one that people are looking at, I think, more than KEEP, and that's what our walkthrough information is used through McRel. So.
It's got several years and, of information to back it up and show, whereas the KEEP is like all brand new.
It's brand
new.
new. There's
Yeah.
no, there's no doubt.
What the value to it is, whether it's gonna work or not.
Yeah,
In other words, it's a reinvention of the wheel.
yeah.
Right.
Isn't that workshop in November or something?
I'm sorry.
A workshop for the teachers for the evaluation tool? Wasn't that in November or something?
The one that KSB did.
Uh-huh.
They're gonna start talking with, I mean, all of these groups. What's the teacher task force 2 or something, but they'll talk about McRel and all of these, but.
We don't want to miss the boat. I
No,
mean, we
we
don't
won't.
want to hit March in
We won't.
February and miss the boat.
Yeah, we're ahead of a lot of folks that didn't talk about it through their negotiations at all, so we'll be there. We just need to
Susan, I
decide
have
what to.
A report, really is not a report, but it is. We all got a email to go to Becoming Adults, and it's the, for the lack of a better word, the SPED program from 18 to 21-year-old. And I decided maybe, read at 8 o'clock, it was started at 8:30, I went over, and it's absolutely wonderful. It is back behind the high school. It's modular, double. The one side is like an apartment, so they have cooking facilities, laundry facilities, just like an apartment would have, a bed. The bed gets messed up every so often to their dismay, because then they have to go fix the bed, but that's their training. They greeted you at the door, they showed their area, then they have the other half that is like a work area. They're learning skills like the COF does. I was very, since I've worked with these kids, a lot of those that were there, it was very neat to see. The only thing I couldn't figure out is why the board didn't know about it ahead of time. I mean, it was, I wish we'd have known about it. Surely we'd have had to okayed something, all the expense, and I don't know how that all happened, but anyway, I'm glad they have it. I just don't know how we got it to that point without us knowing about it, but I'm glad we
Well,
have it.
and I will tell you, I went to that as well. Because I've got a son who may be taking part in that program. And there's a lot of good things involved there. I think there's still a ways they need to go with some of the pieces to the puzzle.
They need some leadership, some more leadership, I believe.
Yeah.
All right, other reports?
I think one of the important things that, in discussing the convention or seminar that we went to was, with this whole waiver, was the whole testing systems that are coming out. And one of the big ones we talked about was ACT, since it's widely used already, is taking that and using that as the tested standard, or testing standard for the state. The only question they had was whether or not that was going to work for elementary levels and middle school, because it works well for high school students and has for years. But they haven't had anything developed for elementary and middle school. So the questions that they were posting were more concerned with how ACT would fit with elementary and middle school. And they talked about two other programs, I forget their names, but ACT is what stuck out to me because obviously it's something I'm familiar with. And the other thing about the importance of education, we talked about all the soft skills or the lack of teaching thereof, the showing up on time, the zero drug tolerance, stuff that we in this district I think have taken to liking, with the whole attendance program that we have in place, that OSCED or whatever they're called, the SCDC, put in place with Blaine Finch a year ago, that awards good attendance. The drug policies that we have in place for the high school, I think, are a good start. But there's probably more that we should be doing. I'm just not sure what it is at this point. But also the importance of technology. Technology, unfortunately, is our future. And the amount of workforce needed to run that technology is getting harder and harder to find because we're not teaching the right stuff to some degree. So it'll be interesting to see, with Common Core and all these soft skills that are being pushed, just how much farther we'll get with all these technical jobs.
All right, other meetings, other site councils, anything? Thank you all very much for going and representing us. Moving on then, hearing nothing else, 5.03, Dean?
Just to follow up on a couple things there with the state assessments that Brian was talking about, there was 3 models, and this is something that the state board has to decide, and they're in the process of going through each one of these smarter balanced assessments, and ACT actually had started working with them originally and then pulled out, and they're doing their own now. But that's the one that everyone talked about at the beginning, and now ECT has come to the come into light and talking about that a little more. And the third one they were considering, and I'd never even heard of it, and most people there hadn't, it's PARCC. I take it that's off the table. They didn't even talk about it other than give us the acronym for it. But the ACT test, superintendent from McPherson, that's what they do, or got their waiver before Kansas did, and used the ACT for high school and middle school. But they do have ways to assess career-ready skills. He talked about the number of students that were going to be needed, or number of positions needed for the workforce, not necessarily that take a bachelor's degree to do that. And ACT seems to fit in with what they're doing real well, and my ears perked up on a lot of this. The soft skills was one. I talked to Ryan about the clearinghouse information where it tracks what our students have done. Again, if you guys think of the numbers that he gave, it was like 86% of the students told him that they were going onto a career or a training, some sort of training. And when they actually got the data back, it was half of that at the most that actually did. And his point was the jobs that we're going to see in the near future are going to take some type of training, and we're not preparing students for that workforce. Attendance, that was something that wasn't mentioned a lot, but Brian and I were at the same table there and talked a lot about it. So I think what we're doing with the I have to think, FCDC and Blaine and working with industry here, work keys, all of those things I think will help. One thing that they did hire were career coaches. We had talked about this before, about getting someone to visit with those kids and present this information. But I think the more we develop the communities and schools program, right now they're involved with all of those things, and we're doing things that they don't, that I think are very beneficial. At the high school and middle school level, AVID is one, but then also just talking about the career days and the structure we have now with having people come in and talking to kids. Reality U is one that's really powerful. All of those things I think make a difference, but career coaches would be awesome. They're not certified people. They're just, do you remember what he said, the three people they had? One might have been an educator, but one was what?
Kindergarten teacher.
And then there was two others that I can't remember that didn't have educational backgrounds, but they had the career. One I think might have been a social worker, but anyway, it just made a lot of sense. And then he talked about a test that they give in the middle school called Engage, and I thought that was really interesting. I'll talk to Carmen about this. But it actually predicts their academic success, whether they're at risk of graduating or not. And it has some of the social aspects, and he gave some examples of students that are straight A's that really lack the social piece, that are going to struggle in college because of that, and then vice versa. But just a lot of real good information. I thought it was one of the better seminars or summits that we went to. They were full of information, and talked a lot about Common Core and dealing with that. If you want to pull up the, let's see. That sheet, I don't know if you can see it, you probably have to pull it up on your computer to see it. But this was our budget projection worksheet. And what you see in the orange and then right the last line in kind of the yellow are what we published is in orange, and the worksheet or working budget is what we have now off of the superintendent's report called the SO 66. And if you look what we had published compared to where we are, obviously we always publish higher. But the good news is, from what our working budget was when we started this process, compared to where it came in unaudited, we're about $100,000 up from what we expected for the working budget. And you can work across there, the high density at risk, 104, total FTE 2,401. You can work all the way across there, transportation's up, the new facilities. Again, we're not budgeting that. I think we'll get it, but until we have the audit, won't know for sure. Virtual school, we actually ended up with 23.1 FTE. Free lunch numbers are down just a little bit, so we lost six FTE there, but gained 24 or 34 actually on the high density at risk. Overall, the FTE 3,816.8 compared to last year was 3,790. So about 26 higher FTE than where we were last year. If you want to pull up the other sheet now, Andy, the one that has enrollment, is that, well, I'll go through that one first. What this is the legal max worksheet. And if you work your way down from the top, the regular enrollment, it has the head count and then the FTE as it goes down. Our head count then this year is 2,536. That includes every student that we educate, whether they're in our building or not. Some of those are home-based 3 and 4 year olds. The virtual school, all of those things. Last year we were at 2,518, so we saw about an 18 student increase there. On at the bottom of that page then is the funding summary, and you can see right at the top where it has funding summary, right at the top where it has 3,306 FTE. Last year we were at 3,265.8, so an increase there. And when you figure special ed weighting, which we don't know, there's a formula you use, and that's what it comes up to, 510 students that will get funded for right now, but at the end of the year, it won't be anywhere near that high. They base that formula on how much money is available and those things. But with those numbers included, compared to where we were last year, we were at 3,790. So overall, a little bit of an increase, and actually a little bit higher than what we first projected. And then the last sheet will give us the numbers that each grade has. Now, these do include, if you just go to the next one there, Andy, the next attachment, and that one. You can see the number of kindergarten through 12th grade students. The non-graded or not graded at 45, 39 of those students are at Future Visions. Last year, I think we had 54 or 5, so we saw a pretty good decrease there, but we picked up 22 in the virtual school. But those are the breakdowns of those numbers, from 3 to 4 year old IEP students, 4 year old at risk, 36 students in that program again. So that's our enrollment summary, which I'm pleased with, actually. And
Good report.
Let's see. We do have our big advisory council meeting coming up on October 11th. That's this Thursday, and we're going to review. We had broken down into the 5 areas: truancy, behavior, parent involvement, student involvement, or parent involvement, community involvement, and drug and alcohol issues. We're going to pull those groups back together, and I know they've been meeting on a regular basis, most of them, and see where we are. And we're actually looking at sponsoring an event then on, I believe, the 23rd, and I don't think I wrote down the date on anything I have here. Let me see. Yes, October 23rd. It's the Early Childhood Coalition is sponsoring an activity at the high school. And we thought we would piggyback on that with Red Ribbon Week and try to get some of these other groups involved and get some parents involved to talk about some of those things and have different resources there and get that process started. But we're going to meet on the 11th to discuss that.
Forgive my ignorance. What's Red Ribbon Week?
That's the national program for drug awareness, and every year they do different activities. I don't know what elementary has planned this year. It's always something, and high school, middle school usually do some things, but that's the week, national recognition of that. And then the Candidates Forum is October 16th, next week. And if you have specific questions you would like submitted, give me those, and I will be happy to turn those in. And I know the moderator that probably maybe get a chance that they're asked, so. But if you have questions, let me know.
Bill, for you, I'd take an extra 5 to answer your question, ask your questions. And that would go to communities and schools.
Are you going to be as good as Jim Lair at controlling
He'll-
that?
oh, he's
I will
much better
control
than
the
that.
meeting.
He's much better than that.
At $5, I ask your question, you can donate to communities and schools, okay?
All right.
And that's my report.
Wonder if I could do that for a fundraiser.
You could.
We'll visit you in jail.
It's going to communities and schools, I'm not
You know, if you
pocketing.
advertise it, you know, if you really want your question
Like an
asked.
express question.
Express it, the express lane. It'll
The
cost you
express
this,
lane.
that money goes to communities and schools.
I think that might work.
Or we could do the,
What do you think, Brandon, will that work? Sure. Okay, thank you.
or we could give it to the PAC for lobbying, for
No,
helping us with
no
our school
pack,
stuff.
no lobby.
All right, moving on to section 6. Ms. Fanning, KLN site visit update.
Yes. Well, Dean had asked me just to kind of fill you in on what happened while they were here. So I don't have a lot of information for you at this point, but I'll give you these. On one side, and I think maybe Dean attached
Yeah, they're
this.
attached.
On one side is what they gave to us.
Thank you.
And then on the other side, just me kind of taking some notes while they were here and debriefing with us, are just some points that they brought up to us. So one side is what they gave us, and then the second side has the feedback that they gave us. That day that they finished on that Tuesday, they asked to debrief with Mr. Catt and myself, and they wanted to be able to give positives back that they saw while they did their walkthroughs, not only to give to the board, but then to turn around and tell teachers. So these are things, I sent this to my staff today, but I'm also going to email this to Josh and Amy tomorrow so they can send it to their staffs as well. Because they didn't just walk through Eugene Field, they went ahead and walked through all elementary buildings. Some of the things that they saw throughout USD 290 that they thought were real positives was CHAMPS. I know we've talked a little bit about CHAMPS before, but it was definitely something that was apparent to them as an outsider coming in. They felt like there was fidelity, like there was teacher buy-in. It was very visible to them. Very evident that it was being used and that staff appreciated having that. Another thing that they got feedback from the parents on is that the parents appreciate the CLIP system. And if you don't know what that is, as we started CHAMPS this year, something we've integrated in most of our elementary classrooms is a CLIP system where a child has their name on a clip, and it's kind of the behavior management system for that classroom. So every child starts in the middle of the chart and has the potential to earn their way up the chart by doing good deeds, by following directions, by being that kind of model student, or they have the potential to earn their way down the chart. But then once they've earned their way down because they've made a mistake, they've not followed directions, they did not follow expectations, they turn around and have the potential to earn that back and earn their way up the chart. And that was one thing that parents had expressed that they appreciated, and they liked the consistency of that, and that kids have the opportunity to redeem themselves after they've made a mistake. They felt like the staff was very warm and welcoming.
And they felt like we have taken some steps to maximize learning in the classrooms. They felt like the support staff was very actively engaged when they did walkthroughs. One thing that they shared with Dean and I is that they made 157 walkthroughs in the 2 days that they were here, which is a tremendous amount and phenomenal. They felt one of the things that they had said is we feel like we got a really good snapshot of what Ottawa is about and what's going on here. So, like I said, that was not all just at Eugene Field. That was between Garfield, Lincoln, and Eugene Field. So, they thought it was a nice and refreshing experience. This was KLN's first opportunity to come in and do this as either a focus school or a priority school. We were the first one in Kansas to do that, first one through Greenbush, and so they came in and did that and had one of their Southwest Plains cooperative people here as well, so he could kind of take some notes and gain from the experience there, so he knew what to do in South Plains as well. So it was kind of good to be the first one out of the chute. I think they've learned some things. I thought they were very helpful, very polite, very non-intrusive as they could be in our classrooms. They had noticed that facility efforts had been made. I'm sure that that probably came out in some of the focus group conversations that they had. The focus groups that they met with, they did meet with a group of students, which was nice. I had some 4th and 5th grade students that they met with. They met with a group of parents. They met with site council. They met with board members. They met with a teacher group. They met with central office employees. They met with Mr. Catt by himself. They met with me by myself. I think they got a very good picture of strengths and weaknesses of our district. I know when I met with Michael Kuntz for my interview, he said, you know, it's amazing how many common threads are coming through the focus groups. And he didn't indicate to me what those common threads were, but very good to hear that maybe they've identified some things that will help make improvements for us. So they also like the opening activity that we do at Eugene Field. Apparently that's something that they've done in the past, and we didn't do it last year. And teachers came to me and said, you know, we really want to do this, so let's make this happen. So really it has been teacher-driven because it starts already before school time in the gym when kids are eating breakfast and kind of arriving in the morning, and that's been a really good time to celebrate successes, those kids that get to the top of the chart or have done phenomenal things. They get recognized at that time, and so they recognize that as their group. They had teachers saying, well, if you're going to be in our building, why don't you just come on over at opening time? We'd love to have you then. So it was nice that they got to see that and hear that. As far as feedback, that's about as much feedback as we got. The only other thing that KLN shared with us is kind of what are the next steps. Right now, all we have are kind of these positive feedback comments, but we know constructive criticism is coming, which we need. Once they have looked at the survey that everyone took, I don't know, Dean, what the final total was there, but at least 140 or 150 people, quite a few surveys were finished. As soon as they've compiled the survey, the needs assessment, they will also look through the walkthroughs, and they will also look at the interviews that they did for the focus groups, and then they will compile a report. From the date that they were here, they told us it would be probably 3 or 4 weeks. So hopefully in a couple of weeks I will have more information to share with you, but that's about as much as we have at this point. When that plan does come or the feedback comes, our district facilitator, Janice Nicholas, is a retired teacher out of Lawrence. Seems to be very knowledgeable, very helpful, very friendly, and is happy to come down and help us with that report. Kind of help us decide what our next steps are as a building, as a district. Michael Kuntz, I think, will also come down, who is the KLN representative out of Greenbush. They will both come and kind of help us weed through that report and decide what our next steps are. The only other thing that I thought might really be helpful for you to hear is as we went through the KLN training a few weeks ago, they had described to us that as we're making an improvement plan and moving forward from this needs assessment, that we will be using the 7 turnaround principles. I had never heard of the 7 turnaround principles, and so I wasn't sure how knowledgeable you were about those, but I just thought I would mention the 7 of them because our improvement plan then has to address each of those 7 principles and what are we going to do to make each one of those better. So one of the 7 turnaround principles is strong leadership. Another one is to enable effective educators, maximize learning time, ensure rigorous curriculum, utilize data analysis, establish safe environment, grow family and community engagement. So as we get farther into this process, another component that we have seen at a glance, kind of up on a projector, is something called Kansas STAR. Kansas STAR has a component in it where myself and my building leadership team will fill out a needs assessment just for our building. And then it has these 7 turnaround principles right in the software. And this is something that KSDE has been developing and coming up with. Then after we fill out the needs assessment, it turns around, the system does, through Kansas STAR, and says, here's some things based on the answers you gave us that you might want to consider for your school improvement plan. So hopefully, after we get the report back from KLN, after we get some information from Kansas STAR, things will become very apparent about what we need to address. And then we can choose those things right in Kansas STAR, and essentially at that point, our school improvement plan is made. And those are the things that we'll be focusing on then for the next at least 1 year, possibly 2 years, and over the course of 3 years. The way they described it is you can come off of being a focus school or priority school, but you have to do it for 2 years consistently and show growth. And essentially they said, you're pretty much going to be on for 3 years. There's not too much wiggle room in it. So that's kind of what we know at this point. If you have questions for me, I'd be happy to try to answer them, but I don't know how many I will have.
The 7 turnaround principles are attached there also, and then they have under each one some examples of what they're talking about. So that's a little more information that you may understand. But I think it's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, I do too.
It'll be just like the last KLN visit where they give you all the kind of the frills and talk about those things, but the actual report will have meat to it and tell us, we really need to focus on these things. And I guess just one comment that they did make, and it was funny, I was around Friday in all the elementaries, and they said they didn't realize, or I didn't realize until they said something, and then I noticed how many interruptions there are, intercom interruptions. In every building I was in, there's at least one time when I was in there that, during the middle of whatever, there's a intercom interruption. So I know that's going to be one thing that they focus on district-wide, is to really, hold that time sacred when kids are doing something and try to develop some way to communicate that doesn't interfere with students. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And after they mentioned it, and every school had
That was a big deal in KCK. You didn't get intercom interruptions.
Yeah. So.
Marge, did you want to say something?
I do have a question. When I was interviewed, they talked a lot about community, and not just the school community, but the entire community. And I was thinking about that. I was trying to think of things that we did, and I came up with some. But one of the things that's been brought to my attention is the Eugene Field website is not up to date. And I don't know whose responsibility that is, but we're in October, and it's...
I will clarify that, because to be honest with you, I'm not sure whose responsibility that is either.
Well, we're at 11, we're 10, 11, or 11, 12, and we're October 8th.
Okay.
And we have teachers that are no longer with us on there, and new teachers that aren't on there.
I will be happy to try to fix that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else have any questions?
No, please convey our appreciation to the staff for being welcoming and warm and being an active part in this process.
They were very much troopers, because I know they had people in their classrooms a lot those 2 days, so, but it went very well, so.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Good job. All right. Moving on to 6.02, Lumen Touch pilot contract. We've had a contract attached for your review.
And this is the contract that Mike Norris drew up, that they, I mean, the changes that he made and then what they had agreed to everything that he said. I don't know where we are. I'd like to, I can find out the questions that you have asked this evening. It's something that I'd like to continue or not get locked into anything. I think Christie, with her pilot of that, is more than willing to do the what's necessary to do it. And I think Ryan has other teachers on board, knowing how much work that is also. But it's in front of you there.
All right.
Well, there's a couple questions I asked earlier. In section 11, it says here that Lumen owns all content, which the question I would have is if we want to get out of this and go to a different portal, as you described, it's a web-based portal, would we be able to keep our content? Because in 13, in that section, it also says sharing and ownership of curriculum and lessons. It is Lumen's intent to allow customers of Lumen the ability to share curriculum and lessons provided by other Lumen's customers. So there is a sharing capability here. And I guess the question I have is if we just, again, without knowing the long-range cost or even budgeted cost for even just the one-on-one initiative, can we keep our lessons or do we have to rewrite them if we go with another software? And again, those two says they could share them to anybody
Right,
they
they can
want to.
share, yeah. they
Well,
can
and the
share.
other thing that, anytime you're getting into publishing information, whether it be on the internet or in a white paper or anything, you're crossing the bounds of copyright. So where are we in terms of copyright using our curriculum, through Common Core, pulling resources from the texts that we're currently using, the curriculum we're currently using? All those are questions that really bug me. And the reason they bug me is because being a musician and knowing that if I was teaching and I made copies of a piece of music that was still in print and I didn't know it, if somebody turned me in and ASCAP or BMI or any of those publishing hounds came in, it was a $500 per copied page fine for those kinds of things. And I don't feel like that we have a good sense of the waters in which we swim when it comes to dealing with our curriculum, what we're sharing with other, through Lumen, what are we pulling. I think we need to have some sense of how those pieces of the puzzle go together before we swim too deeply into this ocean.
And add more than just the math curriculum.
Right.
Yeah, Ryan, you can help, but right now, all the curriculum that we develop is based on the Common Core, which is a list of national standards. I mean, there's no copyright to that. Now, what else Christie is pulling from, I don't know if she's pulling from.
Anything that she puts there is, nothing we have is specific to the system. So it's not like once she has it in the system, we don't have access to it. And a lot of it is like a Word document. You upload it, so she would still have access to the Word document. If she's uploading YouTube videos, then all the copyright is based off of YouTube. There really is no copyright because it's off the internet. Anything else she's done off of a website, whatever, once again, is bound by that website. She just uploads the link to the website. She's not putting it in there as this is Christy Miller's work, or this is Keith Lane's work, or this is anybody's work. It's, here's a website you can utilize to help you understand the direction that we're going. And so then, within the program, the only thing that Lumen has housed that we may not be able to get access back is the problem banks, which she either picks up or she can pull them out of the textbook or whatever they happen to be.
Right there, pulling it out of the textbook, that's where the copyright crossover comes. Because if you're pulling out of somebody's textbook and publishing it to,
We're not publishing it to anybody. It's no different than Our textbooks are available online, so it's no different than having our kids access the textbooks online. The only thing they're doing is creating a different plat for them to turn in their work.
However, under section 11 and 13, Lumen has the right to share your information with other Lumen
Yeah,
clients.
that's
That crosses over.
That's the copyright crossover, is because you're pulling, even though we have bought license to this material for us to use in our district, and we've paid for that license through the use of, the purchase of the textbooks, the use of their web features and all that, so we've paid for those licenses. We haven't paid for Lumen to share that with another district.
And that's what those
That's the concern.
sections say currently.
That and others would share with us if we did that, but yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
that's the concern.
And since she is doing this herself, if I was in Winfield, Kansas, I would just go and use her stuff.
And
I
it's
mean,
available, you can go online and get
But
the
not-
videos and everything, not just with math, with anything, it's all online and
But the
teachers are
time
sharing
that
it.
she's taken to put into it, and the the
Mhm.
15 minutes to 30 minutes to do her videos and make
Mhm.
that, I mean, that's really her intellectual property, I mean, that we're tapping into for our district.
And I'd still like to see what their budgeted projected costs are.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I'm not seeing anything in the actual, either the management system or the one-to-one initiative that makes me think that any of it is bad in terms of actually using it. My concern is the proprietary pieces of it. What do we own? What are we having to buy from others? How much is it costing? Are we paying licensing fees? What would those licensing fees come over the projection of time?
And
Trust me,
And
that
then-
gets expensive in a hurry.
And then eventually, since this is a product that offers many components which we pay for separately, how does that fit in together? I know we're only talking about the one-to-one iPad initiative, but of the components that they offer us, is that a direction that the district needs to go, wants to go? Where are we going with that, and how does that fit in with it? Because, we have, again, at the hospital, a software system that we hate, and we can't get out of it because we got hooked in after we were a beta site.
Well, we're not a
So-
beta site,
But-
and that's, we're-
But the-
And personally, Susan, I like your system, and I
I
can make
know,
it work for you.
I know.
But the question I have is, let's go back to this. We're sitting here in October, almost November coming up. What is the budget after the first year? What is the projected cost for us for next year? They should know, because this is a one-year freebie, correct, Dr. Cobbs?
I don't know why you're asking me to.
They,
I don't know the budgets.
they-
Well, you should, because as a principal, you should know your
They,
budget
This is
inside and
not a-
out.
This is not a high school budgetary issue, this is a district budgetary issue.
they
That's
can,
why we're asking.
So what is the price, Dean?
I don't know right now.
Okay.
I'll find out.
Because also they're providing us training, what is that cost? Are they doing that for free too, and what is that training?
Everything they're doing right now hasn't cost or won't cost anything.
So what is the type of training are they doing? Because I didn't
With
think
what?
lumens were, you're saying they're doing core beliefs, missions, and visions.
That's part of what we're doing, the E8 training or going through and making that plan on where we want to be, to set our core beliefs, a mission, a vision, all the things that we haven't been able to get accomplished. But that's what they're doing, and there's no cost to any of that.
And then what I heard earlier is that we want to look at a new student management system. As a board, and we have a new director of information system, what are the issues of our current systems that are inadequate?
One, it doesn't have scheduling software. It does, but it doesn't work. We've scheduled the high school schedule by hand the last 2 years. Paid our counselors, I think, 20 extra days this summer to develop a schedule. It also does not have an attendance module that works well for us. It doesn't have a behavior module that works well for us. It doesn't have a time management module that works well for us.
Okay, and respectfully, I don't think this has been shared with the board yet. that that's such a failure with the current system. So I would request with our new leadership in HIM to do an evaluation of all the softwares that we do have. And before we move to say we're gonna buy Lumens, we should bring the experts in and say, let's look at what we do have, what is working, and then ask what is changing. Because Dr. Cobbs, I did not know you had this long list of problems that's not working. That's not been shared up to here. And I've been on the technology committee, and we've got a new director. That was never a topic when we're having regular meetings. So if there's an issue, let's address it, but let's not make a wholesale swoop, because if Susan doesn't like her system, we need to do a true evaluation of everything and make sure we're making the right decision the next time if we do make a change.
And that's what we're doing, so.
But I think
We're
we
far from
probably
making a
need to make a
decision.
list on what we've got and what the issues are, because, I mean, I didn't know we had this long list that schedule wasn't working. We paid an extra 20 hours for 20 days for that. So, I mean, we need to look at what our issues are, and have we ever brought that company in and says, fix this?
Yes, on,
Well, and again, it needs to be an overarching plan thoughtfully and with the appropriate bids, requests for proposals, those type of things put out, I think.
And we need to have the front-end users who's doing it give input on whether it's working and how it's gonna be used. Can Mike look at section 11 and 13 on that as well?
And give him the scenarios as you've had them described, maybe, too. So, there was a possibility of an action item, because it's under that section, for the Lumen.
Yeah, but it could also be considered continuing business.
Right, so we'll just put it on for the next time? Is that
Yeah.
good with everybody?
Yeah.
If you have other questions, other thoughts, issues, and you don't feel concerns, you have things that you want to bring up or have Dean bring up prior to our next time of getting this back shared with us, please either email him, call him, or access him somehow. Deal? Now, we won't have any surprises the next time it comes up. All right. Negotiated, 6.03, approved negotiated salary and language changes for 2012 to 13 school year.
the teachers voted on the proposed changes in contract, and it was 80,
I do.
past 82 to 65. That was 3.5 increase on the base. Extra duty increase from $10 to $12.50, and then the language changes. The biggest one, I guess, that was the controversial one, was on the transfer policy, to where when it gets down to it, the board would have the right to transfer where they see fit. But as we talk through negotiations and things, it's probably not going to be used very often, if at all, but just something we felt like we needed to change. And then the teacher, I guess, is it progressive discipline plan? Brian, is that right word? Progressive discipline, is that how it's worded? That was another big item there. And then just cleaned up several other issues there in the language. Anything else, David or Brian or Mark?
Pretty well
that you
covered it.
think-
Okay.
I think the biggest piece is, there was some language in there about professional expectation that was
Oh, yes.
down to
Yeah.
the wire at the end,
Mhm.
that we finally came to some agreement about. And then the transfer policy was the last big piece, and of course, we agreed to start investigating, knowing that the state was gonna mandate KEEP or something like it.
Okay. All right.
Madam President, I would move that we accept the completed negotiated agreement for the,
Second that.
Okay, David has made a motion, and Bill has seconded the motion for the proposed and already teacher ratified changes as presented. Do we have any further discussion?
Just a huge debt of gratitude to both negotiating teams. Lots of
Absolutely.
energy and
It
time.
was a
and-
lot of time.
it was a lot of time.
And,
And it was a long list of
It
things
was
we
an
worked through.
awful lot of pizza
That's right.
Yeah.
every Monday.
Okay.
That's greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Any other questions? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. 6.04, the bus transportation salaries. Did I read that right?
Yeah, I wanted to visit with you a little bit about the transportation department. This was a classification of employees that just completely slipped under the radar as far as when we were looking at raises for the current school year. In fact, some of the drivers called Richard in the last few days, and he communicated with us today about, okay, how come everybody else in the district got raises and we didn't? And it was just totally an oversight. What we would like to recommend that the board approve tonight, we have two different pay scales for our transportation department. Those who work for the special ed department work on an hourly rate of $10 an hour currently, because they might have a 15-minute route and they might have a 3-hour route if they're going to Lake Mary or somewhere like that. The route drivers are paid at the rate of $15 per route. So we have a difference there. The classified raises in general averaged about 4%. It was kind of like the licensed staff, depended on where you fall on the table. Some were slightly less than 4%, some are slightly more than 4%, but basically 4% would be a good average. So what we're proposing to do is add 4% to the $15 per route, which would be $15.60 per route, or a 4% raise. And then on the $10 hourly people that work for special ed, giving them a 15-cent raise, and the logic there being that then both groups are earning $1.20 more per day, excuse me. So that was our proposal that we'd like you to consider. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, and this would be retroactive to the first of the school year.
So if I drove a bus and I drove just like from here to the high, here to the high school, or whatever, that would pay the same as if I drove all the way to Lake Mary?
No.
No, it's two different animals. The route from here to the high school, well, first of all, we don't have any regular bus routes that are less than an hour, do we, Richard? Lake Mary would be a transportation of special ed students, and that would then be paid at the hourly rate rather than a route rate.
Okay. All right, all that's spelled out,
Yes.
so there's no possibility for problems.
Well, there's always a possibility for problems, but we think it's spelled out, yeah.
And how is sporting event or sport teams transported? Are they transported with $15 per hour?
That's a by the hour, because that's considered an extra duty.
So what?
So what's the
What
extra
do they
duty
make?
hourly?
It's $10 per hour.
Okay, so that falls on the $10 or the
Yes.
$10.40?
It would be $10.40,
Okay.
or $10.15, I'm sorry.
Okay. Questions, Marge?
Yes, didn't we approve a 50 cent an hour for classified, kind of across the board,
I believe we approved a percentage
the percentage?
on each.
It was 30 cents on base. It was 30
Okay.
cents on base, then they receive step. Put that on the table.
Okay, so we're basically saying we're doing a 15 cent on base then, with this?
On the
With
base
the-
of the special education drivers, yes. That's the way I understood it.
I would like to give them the equal amount of that we did, classified it, whatever, however that works out. Not half of it, but the whole 30 cents.
Okay, I'm simply the messenger. I know that Cindy and Terry talked about the special ed budget and the effect that it would have on our special ed budgeting, so I can't give you any more information than that. That was Cindy's recommendation, was to go with 15 cents.
I think the cost at, 30 cents, I think we're in line with on the transportation piece, and in line with all the other classified positions. I mean, they're kind of two different animals, the pay scale.
I understand that.
We've been at $10 an hour on transportation for as long as I can remember. Of course, that really we have, they usually don't receive an annual increase, so.
Well, it's high time that they do then.
Yes. You couldn't pay me enough to drive a bus. I run over the curb as it is in my
If I'm
car.
cleaning
Can't
the
imagine
floor
a
to
bus. Holy cow.
Transmitting a special ed kid,
I know.
I think that's a lot more than cleaning the floor.
Holy moly. I need some curb feelers. Well, I think, is there such a big,
You want some spinners too?
yeah, I need some. Can we afford it to do what she's suggesting?
Well, we would have to probably need to run the numbers by school. I think she has some other things that she would like to spend some dollars on.
Okay.
It won't quite be working that library, bringing it back to the next meeting. It's a special ed piece.
All right.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the general route drivers. I think that's a fair raise.
So we need a motion. Are you motioning?
Yeah, I'd move we approve the bus transportation salaries for regular route drivers and delay a decision on the sped drivers.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Motion by Bill, second by David to approve the regular route transportation.
Could I ask a question? Would it hurt hypothetically to go ahead and approve the 15 cents and retroactive it as a minimum, then look an additional 15 cents next time, so we're not putting them off
I agree.
another 2 weeks? So at least margin, that we would go ahead and get them something right now.
I agree with that.
Okay, you want to amend your motion?
Is that the friendly amendment?
I don't want Terry to have to do 2 sets of, you know, I don't want her to have to do a retroactive and then do another retroactive.
She's a paid employee of USD tonight. She can do a spreadsheet.
Can you do that? Okay.
It's another column on the spreadsheet.
All right.
And I think if we're doing a raise, I don't want to short them again.
Well, yeah. I think that's understood. So, yeah, that's fine. I'll accept the amendment.
Me too.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0. So I won't ask for anybody opposed. Negotiations. We do not need an executive session for negotiations, is that correct?
That is correct.
That's a first.
At least not until next year.
Party. No, I'm just kidding. Personnel, executive, huh?
Remember you're on video.
I know. That's why I did it, for
Yeah,
posterity.
yeah.
So when you're trying to go to sleep, I'll wake you up. All right, personnel, executive session for personnel.
Don't have anything. Brian, you?
None needed there? All right. We also had a personnel
Move
staff
to approve the
list.
personnel report as presented on section 901.
Second.
All right, we've had a motion and a second to approve the personnel list. Any discussion?
Let's vote.
All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Announcements.
Let's see. PDC meeting is Wednesday. Who's on PDC?
Not me. I missed CAC because of,
Yeah, but that's
the
Wednesday,
tennis, I'm sorry.
4:15 at the middle school library. Candidates forum, like I mentioned, October 16th, that's next Tuesday, 7 o'clock at the middle school. The joint luncheon, and this is correct, Wednesday, October 17th at noon, and USD 290 hosts it. And I know the city was going to talk a little bit about what they're contemplating doing with fiber network, community fiber network. If you could make it to that, it would probably be very beneficial to hear some of that information.
That'll be here.
Yes, it'll be at USD 290 in the conference room. Next board meeting, the 22nd. Tuesday, the 23rd, we have the curriculum council meeting at 4 o'clock. That's also here. And that's pretty much it.
all right. Any other things?
Move we adjourn.
Good.
Second.
All right. I guess all in favor, put your stuff up.
Here, let me show you what we got. can tell me if it's something you guys can do. Did you call me, didn't you?
Yeah,
I didn't recognize your voice.
that's all right. I try to mask it as much as I can.
Well, yeah, you sound like it was like Mission Impossible. Okay, shoot you
Dun,
accept
dun,
that.
dun,
Okay, what I've got is,
You got the septic tank out in the field.
I've got two septic tanks.
You got the one by the pool.
Right. Okay, so here we've got a 4 drain and a 4 drain in the garage. And here, inside the basement wall, goes down into my 4 drains.
I said,
So it drips and it comes through,
So these in the garage end up in your basement.
end up my basement.
that